Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the financial system and basically we are doing the payment and settlement system, right? This is the topic we have started since last few lectures, okay? And basically in this particular series, these are the topics we have scheduled for, like the introduction part, like the National Electronic Fund Transfer, immediate payment service, real-time gross settlement, unified payment interface, and the conclusion part. Okay, these are the topics we have scheduled for the discussion under the series. So far, if we talk about the completion, then basically we have done with the introduction part. We have done with the National Electronic Fund Transfer. Okay, and since last few lectures, we are discussing upon the immediate payment service. And the topics we are totally left with are the real-time gross settlement, unified payment interface, and the conclusion. Okay, so this is the picture we have created so far. I hope that you have revised the previous lectures in the well enough manner before you have come for this lecture, as so many times I have told you it is for your own benefit. Okay, so basically if we start from where we left in the previous lecture, so basically we have left here in the procedure of the IMPS, like visit bank or use of online banking, in which we have seen that IMPS is available on both mode, online or offline, right? So basically we are now discussing about the offline mode, fill out form or enter details. Okay, if you are at the bank branch, which signifies that you are using the IMPS in the offline manner, fill out the IMPS form with details such as beneficiary's account number, name, IFSC code, and the amount to be transferred. So whenever you visit the physical branch, or you can say whenever you go for the offline transaction, always they will ask you the form fill up. Okay, like in the form fill up, you are required to mention the details like the beneficiary name, his account number, okay, IFSC code, and amount which you require to be transferred. Okay, but if you are not visiting the branch offline or you are using the online method, then if you are using online banking, log into your account, navigate to the fund transfer section, enter the required details including the beneficiary's account number, name, IFSC code, and the transfer amount. Okay, like if you are not going to the bank and you are either using the mobile application, okay, online website, or you can say internet banking. If you are using any of these areas, okay, so basically the same procedure you are about to follow here also, but in digital form. Okay, you are no longer required to fill up the form physically on what. Okay, you will get a proper digital interface in which all the details will be required, and you are required to mention details against these names, like account number, mention the account number, name, mention the name, IFSC code, mention the code, transfer amount, mention the amount. Okay, but in the digital form, not in a physical form, as you have to do when you visit the branch offline. Thereafter, authorization. Authorize the IMPS transfer using the authentication method provided by your bank, such as password, OTP, or using a secure token. Okay, so whenever you fill up the details, like suppose this is the scenario, like the name, account number, okay, IFSC code, okay, thereafter the amount, for example. Okay, so if you go by this, suppose name is Mr. X, account number is looks like this, Okay, this is the account number. For example, IFSC code. Alright, look like this. Alright, an amount, if you have mentioned the amount, suppose rupees 15,000 you have mentioned. Okay, so this is the details you have filled. In the bottom line, you will get an option of proceed. Okay, so when you click on this option, the system will ask for the authentication. Okay, authentication is basically done to check out whether you are the real owner of this account or not. Okay, suppose if the real owner of account is Mr. Z, he is the real owner, but somehow due to online fraud and whatsoever, Mr. Y is trying to log in into the account. Okay, so what will happen? Once the proceed button will be pressed, the authentication will be asked by the bank interface, and this could be anything like the password which you have made while you registering. Okay, OTP which will be received on your registered email address or the mobile number, and the secure token which will be present in your welcome gift, right? Any of this thing will be required. Okay, and if you are unable to mention these details, then your transaction will be declined or failed. It means that only the real owner, the person who holds the account, is able and eligible to make the transfer. Okay, because he is the only person who will have the access to the password, to the OTP, and to the secure token. That's why it is known as secured way of transaction. Got it? Thereafter, what we have the confirmation. Once the transaction is authorized, you will receive a confirmation message or receipt from your bank. This confirms that your IMPS transfer required has been successfully processed by your bank. Okay, like suppose once you press the proceed button, then you received an OTP of 654321. For example, this is the OTP you have received. So once you fill this OTP and you will authenticated yourself, what will happen? The bank will automatically process your transaction. Okay, and you will receive a notification which signifies that your transaction has been successfully processed by your bank. Okay, processing. Your bank processes the IMPS transaction and sends a fund to the recipient's bank. IMPS transactions are processed instantly and the funds are credited to the recipient's account immediately. Okay, so you could say, suppose this is the you, this is the beneficiary. Benefactor. As we know, the benefactor is always the sender and the beneficiary is always the receiver. Got it? That's what we have discussed. So if we go by this, so once the sender will initiate the process and the process is successful. Okay, so whatsoever amount he has filled, suppose he has filled rupees 15,000. Okay, so the moment the process will be successful, what will happen? 15,000 will be immediately debited from benefactor's amount and rupees 15,000 immediately credited into the beneficiary's account. Okay, so this is the process. Got it? Okay. Recipient's bank. The recipient bank receives the fund through the IMPS system and credit stamp to the beneficiary's account immediately. The recipient has immediate access to the transferred fund. Okay, so you could say, suppose there are two banks. One is bank is XYZ. Second bank is ABC. All right. So if we go by this, okay, if we go by this picture, so this bank is sender, so that's why it's known as the sender's bank. Here is the receiver, so that's why it is known as the receiver's bank. Okay, so here comes the interbank transaction. Okay, interbank transaction. All right, how? Oh, sorry, it's known as the interbank communication. Okay, so basically the sender's details will be utilized by the XYZ to deduct the amount of rupees 50,000 that particular account number has initiated the process of deducting the amount of rupees 15,000. Okay, and then the XYZ will send the information to the ABC about the account number, the IFSC code, and the name of the receiver. Okay, so once the ABC receives the communication that rupees 15,000 has to be credited in one of his account holder, so it will utilize the account number, check out the IFSC code for the branch, and then the amount will be transferred to the receiver immediately. Okay, so this process is fast and swift. Okay, like once the process is successful, debited amount done and credit amount is also done. Okay, so it's not like this. First the debit account will be done, then it will take some time, then the amount will be credited into the receiver's bank. No, this process will be done into some minutes, or you can say into some seconds also. Okay, so that's how system works. Notification, same like the senders. The recipient receive a notification such as an SMS or email confirming the credit to their account. This notification serves as a confirmation that the IMPS transaction has been successfully completed. Okay, the IMPS transaction is completed instantly with the funds transferred immediately and irrevocably to the recipient's amount. Once the transaction is complete, you can check your account statement to verify the deduction of the transferred amount or not. Okay, so here we have seen two words: immediately and irrevocably. So what is the meaning of it? If we go by the first term, which is known as the immediately, okay, it means that sender XYZ, okay, here is the ABC. Okay, so as we have discussed, the process is too fast. Okay, so rupees 15,000 deducted, rupees 15,000 credited, right? Because the process is too fast. Here comes the concept of immediately. Okay, but What about irrevocably? Like, what does this signifies? Basically, it signifies that once the transaction has successfully initiated, then it couldn't be reversed or cancelled. Okay, so remember, once the transaction has successfully initiated, then it could not be reversed or cancelled. For example, suppose Mr. You can say Mr. D. Mr. E. Two peoples are there, Mr. D and Mr. E. Alright, Mr. D is the sender. Okay, Mr. E is the receiver. Okay, so from the sender's point of view, the chances of misleading information is minimal. Why? Because if anyhow he fill up his detail in the wrong manner, or you can say he has provided his wrong details, then what will happen? The OTP, the password, and you can say the secure token is well enough to stop the transaction. Okay, but from the receiver's point of view, the chances of providing the wrong information is high. Okay, because the sender's bank only verify the sender's verification first. They are no longer verify the receiver's you can say information, because receiver's information is a part of the receiver bank. They will receive the instructions from the sender, then accordingly proceed it further. Okay, then the ABC will receive the information from the XYZ and proceed it further. That's how the system works. Got it? That's what we have discussed. So here, what is the significance of this? Okay, so what happens? Suppose Mr. D, the sender, fill up the information in the wrong manner, that instead of Mr. E, he has provided the information of Mr. F. Okay, so what will happen? When the process will start, when the process of the you can say IMPS will start, then the XYZ will communicate the same instruction to the ABC. Once received the instruction, the ABC will transfer the amount to the Mr. F's account. Okay, whom the account is supposed to be transferred? Mr. A. But whom it has been transferred? Mr. F. That's a picture. Got it? So that's why it is known as irrevocably. Once the transaction has successfully initiated, then it couldn't be reversed or cancelled. It means that if the XYZ proceed the request, then Mr. D could not cancel the transaction or reverse it. Okay, the amount will be transferred to Mr. F's account instead of Mr. E. Okay, so that's why it is advisable to check out the information in the double check manner so that things could be done properly. Now we have the eligibility of IMPS. Like, what does it mean? IMPS, or the Immediate Payment Service, is a fund transfer system in India that allows for the instant transfer of funds between banks. To be eligible to use IMPS, certain criteria must be met. And what is the criteria? Let's see. First is the amount. IMPS can be used for both small and the high value transaction with no minimum amount set. However, individual banks may set limits on the amount that can be transferred using IMPS. Okay, so you could say that officially there is no minimum or maximum limit is there. Okay, or you can say there is a no minimum limit, not maximum. No minimum limit is there. Okay, but it's totally depend upon the individual banks, that might be they could set a limit for the transaction. Okay, because they have to employ the resources to facilitate your transaction. So maybe they will ask you to maintain the transaction up to certain limit. Bank account. You must have a bank account with a bank that support IMPS transaction. Most major banks in India support IMPS transactions. For example, suppose this is the Sanders Bank. Okay. This is the receiver bank. XYZ, ABC. Two banks are there. Alright. So sender initiate the process, but the process, you can say, decline in between. What the reason? Because this bank does not support any IMPS procedure. Okay. So if this is the situation, what will happen? What is the potential thing that could be happen? If that's the situation, the IMPS procedure will not be carried out. Okay. That's why it is advisable that the particular you can say account in which you are sending the money must be able on the IMPS panel. If it is enabled, then the you can say the transaction could not be carried out. But fortunately, most major banks in India support IMPS transactions. Okay. Now we have the mobile banking. You must have mobile facility enabled for your bank account. This is necessary to initiate an IMPS transaction using your mobile phone. Okay. Mobile number. Your mobile number must be registered with your bank account. This is crucial for receiving OTPs and other transaction related messages. Okay. Like we had discussed, suppose if you have one number which is known as 98765432210. This is your registered mobile number. Okay. But right now you are using the number, this one. Okay. You are using that number which is not registered. So what will happen? In this case also, transaction will be denied. Why? Because the OTP, or you can say the authentication, you will receive on that number. Okay, which is the registered mobile number. But because you are using that number which is non-registered, so that's why you will not have the access to the OTPs and passwords. Got it? That's the reason. Okay. IFSC code. You do not need to know the IFSC code of the recipient bank's branch to initiate an IMPS transaction. You only need to recipient's mobile number or the MID, mobile money identifier. Now this is an important, you can say, thing which we should discuss, that for the IMPS transaction you are no longer required to know the IFSC code. Okay, which is required in the NEFT transaction. Okay, instead of this, if you know the mobile number of the recipient or the MMID, which is known as mobile money identifier, then you could proceed the request. So basically, if we talk about the MMID, so what is it? What do you mean by the MMID? So basically, you could say that it is a unique 7-digit number provided by the banks to customers for using IMPS. Okay, so MMID is basically the unique 7-digit number which is provided by the banks to the customer for using IMMPS. Okay, and even you could generate it by your own, and for this you are required to follow the 3 steps, or you could say that from 3 ways you could generate this MMID number. For example, the first is the mobile banking, second is the net banking, third is the phone banking. These 3 ways are basically used to generate the MMID number. So if we talk about the steps, first is the mobile banking. Step 1, step 2, step 3. There are 3 steps. Okay, so let's understand them one by one. First is log into your app. First step. Second is select account. Third step. Third is generate MMID. Okay, so these are the steps in the mobile banking. Second, we talk about net banking. Steps 1, step 2, step 4. Okay, step 1 is login website. Step 2 is home page. Click on MMID. Third is verify your details. And fourth is MMID will be generated. Okay, these are the 4 steps. Now, the last is the phone banking, right? Phone banking. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Okay, step 1 is call on customer care number. Okay, second is select your language. Third is ask for MMID generation. And the fourth is received MMID within how many minutes? Within 24 hours. Okay, so these are the steps. Call on customer care number, select your language, ask for MMID generation, received MMID within 24 hours. Got it? So that's how the MMID system works. Okay, so remember these details. Okay, day after transaction charges. Banks may charge a fee for the IMPS transaction. It is advisable to check with your bank for details regarding transaction charges. Okay, like if we talk about the general way, then the banks usually charges from 2 manner: online or offline. When you go online, then no charges are applicable on your transaction. It means that you will not charge even a single penny. But if you go for the offline charges are applicable plus GST. Okay, so this is the criteria. So if we talk about this one, charges are applicable plus GST criteria, so it differs bank by bank. But in the generalized way, if we excluding the GST, which is chargeable as per the amount you have filled. So what are the charges? Rupees 2.5 up to rupees 10,000. If you are making the transaction of rupees 10,000, you are chargeable 2.5. Remember, excluding the GST. Okay. If rupees 5, if the transaction is up to rupees 10,001 to 1 lakh. Okay. Then you will be charged rupees 5 excluding the GST. But if the amount is rupees 1 lakh to 2 lakh. Okay, so you will be chargeable rupees 15 excluding the GST. So these are the charges, okay, which are applicable. Transaction limit, there is no upper limit on the amount that can be transferred using IMPS, but individual banks may set limits based on their internal policies. It is recommended to check with your bank for any limitations on the amount you can transfer using IMPS. Usually rupees 2.50 lakhs is the highest denominations the bank put while you are using the IMPS for the transaction. Availability, IMPS transaction can be initiated 24/7, including the weekends and the holidays. This makes IMPS a convenient option for instant fund transfers. Okay. So students, basically in this lecture, we have done with the IMPS. In the next lecture, we will start with an RTGS. Till then, just revise all the facts and figures we have discussed in this lecture. Be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture, and what we say, thank you.